I want to quickly talk to you about Crest Capital, and this will be a review of the lender. And the question is, if you are a small business, or you are a startup, or you just anywhere in between, and you have no income, you have income, you have all kinds of possibilities ahead of you. What should you think about Crest Capital? Let's have a conversation about that. Number one, before I dig into anything else, just remember that Crest Capital gives you flexibility. Okay. I love the fact that with Crest Capital, you can actually get anywhere from $5,000 all the way to $500,000. Can you imagine? $500,000, okay? And the cool thing about Crest Capital is that they actually fund you within 24 to 48 hours. So that's really good, okay? So if you think about Crest Capital, I want you to think about an alternative lender. So this is an alt lender, okay? This is not your traditional lender, your traditional bank or credit union. This is an alternative lender, which means what? They actually look at all kinds of criteria to approve you. They just don't look at your credit score only. They look at your revenue. They look at your operational history. They look at a lot of things, okay? So basically, Crest Capital specializes in equipment financing for small and medium-sized businesses. So that's primarily what they do. Now, there are some cases where they actually could give you other kinds of, let's say, business loans, business funding programs. But I would say primarily they like to focus on equipment financing. Sometimes they also do vehicle financing. They do software financing. But the thing is, they like to do collateralized financing. So they're not going to give you unsecured business loans. If you are looking for an unsecured business loans, just go into my channel and look at all the other reviews that I have done so far. Okay. So think about equipment financing. Let's just say asset financing. So they give you anywhere from $5,000 to $500,000, and with extra documentation, you can even go from $750 to even $1 million. I've seen deals where Crest Capital was able to structure things in such a way that the borrower finally got a mil, but that's rare though. But the company's equipment finance options are an alternative to traditional bank or credit union loans. Okay, this is a direct lender, so it provides all the financing itself. Okay, no, this is not a loan marketplace. No, this is a direct lender. So Crest Capital actually began in 1989. So that tells you a lot that this is close to 40 years in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, and so they actually lend to borrowers all across the country. So when you think about Crest Capital, how does their equipment financing program work in let's say I would say in reality? Okay, so you are looking at $5,000 all the way to $500,000, and basically now if you don't have if you are trying to have a simple paperwork sort of path, they will cap you at $250,000. But the more documentation you provide, the more money you'll be able to get through Crest Capital. Okay, so it's up to $250,000 for a simple application, up to $500,000 with more documentation. And the terms here we are looking at 2 to 7 years. So you have a 24 to 84 months. That's actually their standard window of repayment. And the rates go from 8% all the way to 28%. And and the cool thing I love about Crest Capital is that same day approval is possible. In other words, like 9 a.m. Eastern, if you apply and you send the documentation, by 6 p.m. you can actually be approved and actually get funded. Okay, everything can happen within 24 hours. Totally possible. Okay, so when I say equipment financing through Crest Capital, I'm speaking about point of sale systems, manufacturing equipment, medical and dental equipment, etc. Okay, and Crest Capital allows you to finance 100% of the equipment cost, meaning you don't have to make a down payment, right? So you can use the cash for other stuff in your business. That's pretty good. So the equipment you're financing is actually the collateral, and Crest Capital doesn't require additional capital. Okay, so they will take care of vehicles, like I said before, software financing. Okay, and so when I say software financing, this is pretty interesting because through software financing, Crest Capital will provide 100% of the cost, including installation, training, and support. So that's really good. Also, through a Crest Capital, you also have equipment, loan, and lease options. So you have equipment finance agreement, EFA, guaranteed purchase agreement, PUT or PUA, and also number one purchase agreement. They have a First Amendment lease. That's really good. They have a 10% purchase option. They have fair market value, and they have operating lease. So you can see that you have all kinds of programs, all kinds of options that you can really get through Crest Capital. So if you want to qualify for Crest Capital, what are the criteria you need to really fulfill? Crest Capital is not really that complicated. They're not that complicated. That's what I said a little earlier, that you can actually get up to $250,000 with a simple documentation, with a simple paperwork, like But if you want more, if you want to go all the way to $500,000, you have to provide complete documentation. Okay, and the cool thing is that basically you have the possibility to get a soft pull. So if you go to the website right now, you can actually have a soft pull. You can check your eligibility, and you're not going to really hurt your credit score through the process. It is a soft pull. It is not a hard pull. Okay. So, but the only thing is Crest Capital likes to work with established businesses. Okay. So if you are a startup, if you have no history, and you are trying to get equipment financing through Crest Capital, you may be lucky, but the odds are things will be a lot complicated for you. Why? Because even though the loan itself is collateralized, Crest Capital still relies on some kind of operational history to make its determination. In other words, they're looking at how long you've been in business and what's your track record. Okay, they still have to look through your financials to see how much money you are making, how much money you've made in the last 3 years. They'll take a look at your tax returns, your company's tax returns. So I'm speaking about your 1065, your 1120s, or 1120. So it really depends on the setup. Okay, but one thing for sure, if you basically have been in business for at least 2 years, you actually stand a chance to qualify for a Crest Capital loan. Okay, but if you are a brand new business, I mean, I'll just say look for another lender, because the Crest Capital may not be. I want to use the conditional, because there are some cases where they could approve you, but then you have to really have a little bit of a sturdy, like stable financial profile on the personal level. Okay. So when you think about Crest Capital, how do you apply to this lender? How do you make sure that they actually receive your documentation and approve you real fast? A little earlier, I said that they actually can fund you within 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours, but you got to really follow a certain protocol. Okay. First, you want to select your equipment. So when you have to select the equipment you want to finance, right? And you need to have an invoice, an equipment invoice from the vendor or seller. So you can't just say, well, I want this equipment, and it is let's say $100,000, and Crest Capital will just give you the money. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to go to the vendor, to the supplier, ask them for an invoice or a bill or whatever you want to call it, and they'll send it to you. And then once you do, you just forward that invoice, that document, to Crest Capital, along with all your other documentation. So Crest Capital will go into their underwriting process. They'll look at your paperwork, your company's paperwork. They'll look at the invoice itself. They'll look at also what are comparable prices in the market, because the last thing Crest Capital wants to make sure is that you are not overpaying for equipment, especially if you buy used equipment. Okay, they pay attention a lot to used equipment, so they'll run their research. They'll do the research. They'll do the due diligence to make sure that you're not actually overpaying. And so once you do that, you just complete the application. So the application, you can actually mail the application online, like via email, or you can go to a dedicated website, a dedicated site that they will send you to, or you can just fax. You can even fax the documentation to them. That's not a problem. And also, one thing I want to say is that for loans up to $250,000, you only need to complete the application form. So loans over 250K require additional documentation such as tax returns, that's what I said a little earlier, financial statements, and more. So just be aware of that. And once you send it to them, they'll review it. They'll get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. Okay. And if you approve, just you will send the equipment invoice by fax or email. And so sign and return the finance agreement. Okay. So what will happen is here is that Crest Capital will pay the vendor directly. I mean, they'll pay the vendor directly, and they will show you actually a proof that they paid the vendor directly. So it is as how do I say it, as straightforward as possible. So what happens with Crest Capital post funding? So you got your money, you're very happy. Now you didn't get the money, you get the equipment, you're very happy. And how do things work? Well, the thing is that the repayment process depends on the loan and lease structure, right? So you have to really see what kind of setup you have. And most loans and leases carry monthly payments, but Crest Capital can also structure quarterly or seasonal payments. I mean, they'll look at your business model, they'll look at your sector, your economic sector. They will look at your cash flow, what I call cash flow seasonality. They'll look at your revenue. So they'll look at everything, okay, and they'll set up something that works for you. Because the last thing Crest Capital wants is to actually have too much of a burden on you on your budget, okay. So they will work with you to find a solution. So, but regardless of your payment frequency, either monthly, quarterly, weekly, or even daily, you will make the payments with automatic transfers from your business bank account because this prevents missing payments. And Crest Capital indicates that early payoff is allowed. However, and this is a big however, it really depends on the specifics of your financing agreement. There may or may not be a benefit to an early payoff depending on how everything is structured. Okay, so just be aware of that. And so basically, one thing I want to say also is that this lender offers several flexible payment plans that can be combined with most of its loans and lease options. You will need to specify these plans during the financing agreement. Okay, so you have, for instance, master agreement, you have step-up plans, you have deferred plans, and you have seasonal plans. Let me first talk about master agreement. So this plan allows businesses like your business to add equipment schedules in the future. It works similarly to a line of credit, but specifically for equipment. Okay, I want to insist on that. Crest Capital wants to finance only equipment. So this option, the master agreement option, comes in handy for you if your initial equipment purchase meets revenue projections, leading to a desire to add more equipment. You also have step-up plans. So these payment structures allow you to lower payments early in the financing program, gradually increasing over time. So a step-up plan gives you more time to generate a revenue with the equipment, making the payment process easier. You also have deferred plans. So you can defer, like some customers can defer payments for up to 6 months. So like a step-up plan, this gives you more time to generate revenue with the equipment before making payments. And this increases your cash flow during your deferred period, right? And then finally, you have seasonal plans. And those are also known as skip payments. So seasonal plans allow businesses to make no payments during their off-season. So matching payments are due during a peak season, so that's something to really remember. And Crest Capital provides the example of a Northeast golf course missing golf cart payments during the winter. So this is something to really think about, especially from a flexibility but also contractual ability point of view. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of Crest Capital? Let's quickly talk about that. So basically, in terms of advantages, right? So Crest Capital facilitates various equipment loan and lease options for small business owners. It provides a convenient and straightforward online application with no documentation requirements for financing up to a quarter of a million. So if you're looking for a quarter of a million, you have a pretty straight path, okay? And Crest Capital has a fast turnaround time on credit decisions. It is possible to get a decision within 4 hours of applying. And also, the rates are competitive with similar equipment financing providers. And also, you also get various flexible payment options to help afford the equipment. So that's really good. Crest Capital has been around for 40 years, so that's really cool. Okay, 1989. This started in 1989, and so they have a good online reputation, and they are trying to make the equipment financing process very simple, but also convenient. So that's really cool from a flexibility point of view. Okay, and so one thing I also want to say is that you have to understand it's all. Let's talk about the disadvantages first. So, in terms of disadvantages, you need at least 2 years in business and good credit to qualify in some cases. So if you have a startup, you're not going to qualify. So that could be a little bummer. It could be a little disappointing. Okay, but like I said, you do have other solutions if you are a startup. Also, basically, equipment financing caps out at 250K for application only. So for anything above 250K all the way to half a mil, you have to provide extensive documentation. And also, the rates are not really that competitive when you really think about it. And on top of that, they have a documentation fee of $250. Okay. So what are the pros and cons here? Pros: multiple equipment loan and lease options. You have flexible payment plans are available. Application only for financing up to a 250K. Same-day credit decisions are possible. Competitive rates with similar lenders, and reputable company with over three to 4 decades, okay, of experience. So that's pretty cool. So what about the cons real fast? The cons, if you think about Crest Capital, you gotta have at least 2 years in business to qualify. Okay, there is no minimum credit score, no bad credit or startup financing options. Doesn't offer any business loans besides equipment financing. That's a biggie because if you're looking for unsecured business loans or unsecured business line of credit, Crest Capital is not the lender for you. And it is impossible to compare costs with other lenders, okay? And also, this lender charges you a documentation fee of $250, okay? So what are overall, if you think about Crest Capital, I want you to think about a legit business, okay? They've been around, like I said, since 1989, so they're really legit. And they are actually a triple B rated. They're triple B accredited. So that's a Better Business Bureau with A+ rating, okay? So they are on Trustpilot. They are on Trust Radius. So that's really to something to really remember. And one thing I also want to say is that if for any reason you get declined by Crest Capital, you can also reach out to other lenders for bad credit business loans, business lines of credit, business loans, the business term loans, invoice factoring, merchant cash advance, revenue-based financing, SBA loans, working capital loans. Okay, so you do have lots of choices depending on your specifics. And one thing I want to say is that Crest Capital is a direct lender. But if you, for any reason, you want to really reach out to, you want to contact a loan marketplace, you have a lot of choices too. You have a Lending Tree, you have Lending Club, you have a National Business Capital (NBC). You also have Lendio, okay. You have Fundera. So you do have a lot of players in this very crowded space of small business financing. So as a coda to this conversation, I'll talk to you about Crest Capital. This was a review of the lender. So I explained what Crest Capital is, how the whole equipment financing program works, what are the qualifications to get a loan at Crest Capital, how to apply, what are the pros and cons. Thank you so much. God bless you. I will see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.